Come and join me. We'll teach the world to fly. Will you come and join me? I'll fly you to the sky. Jump on in, it's time to fly. Let imagination go round. Jump on in and take my hand. Run a little bit till you catch the wind. Run a little bit till you catch the wind.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Elevate Your Leadership podcast with me, your host, Bob Pizzini. I hope you've listened to my podcast in the past, and if you have, you know that I love to have discussions with guests who not only bring great value to me and my organization, but these are people who I know are going to bring great value to you and your organization. I've talked to Navy SEALs, I've talked to multi-million-dollar business owners, I've talked to entrepreneurs just starting up, private equity people, airline pilots, you name it. And today, I have to say is a first because my guest is Dr. Allison Tendler, a board-certified ophthalmologist, just as a point of entry, but she is doing so many other things with her life that I know we're going to have a great discussion. I'm going to go ahead and read Dr. Tendler's bio real quick, and then we're going to jump right into it. Dr. Allison R. Tendler, you notice that Allison R. Tendler, A-R-T, that's a theme that she's developed. Dr. Allison R. Tendler is a board-certified ophthalmologist and the owner and creator of Art, Vision, and Artisan Skin and Laser Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She is an eye surgeon specializing in cataract and vision correction procedures, and Allison also operates Artisan, providing the latest technologies and treatments, including laser, facial, injectable options for healthier, more youthful skin. Her mission is to help patients look and feel their best. I'm going to have to visit your place in South Dakota. Whether she is speaking with a patient, leading her team, networking at community events, hosting a guest on her podcast, which I've been a guest, or speaking in front of a large audience, Allison is devoted and inspired to helping others see with clarity and feel confident about their lives and their image. She believes that when you see the world better, you see yourself better. Allison grew up in Clear Lake and Sioux Falls in South Dakota and is proud to call South Dakota home. Allison Tendler, welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast.
Oh, fabulous to be here, Bob. Very, very honored.
Yeah, so we were just talking kind of before we hit record about the weather forecast in South Dakota, and you are home where you grew up, but I hope the next 2 days, you don't get clobbered with too much snow.
It's a force being home. They say we're going to get hit hard. I'm still waiting for that actually to happen.
Okay, all right. So because you're home in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, do you drive past your childhood home? Do you see the same your school you went to? Is all that stuff the same when you were a child?
Oh, funny. No, so I grew up in a really small town in South Dakota till I was 10, and then I moved to Sioux Falls, which is the big town, which continues to, gain some notoriety over the last several years with its growth and some of its leadership, business adventures that it has. So Sioux Falls itself is really becoming an amazing city, which I shouldn't say on the air because I like it how it is, and I don't, it's like, oh, I don't want that to change. No, so I am right now I go to work, I come home, I go to work, come home. We leave on the weekends to sometimes go to the lake or whatnot. And so I have driven by my home once. God, it's probably been 10 years ago since I drove by my childhood home, and rarely get back to the high school that I was at too. So you'd think it's like, oh, it's a small town you drive. I'm like, and I don't. You kind of become this little thing in your own little world from your day to day.
Yeah, the reason I asked about do you drive past your childhood home and your high school and all that is because just for me, it's so different. I left my hometown when I was 18 years old and joined the Navy, and I don't get back very often. So when I do, it's this reminiscent drive past the the elementary school, the high school, the house I grew up in, and some other sites. So
Now, when I once in a while venture back to the small town where I grew up, that's where my dad's family was from. I definitely do that at that time. I always felt like, I don't know why, that I was a child until I was 10 and we moved. And then I became an official adult after that.
wow,
It's just like your mental state changed and how I thought about the world changed at that point.
wow, just from
So,
that geographic relocation.
and
Wow.
I think the reasons behind it, my parents divorced, we moved to a new town, we had to have all new friends, new activities. And so there was just this definite chapter ending and new chapter beginning. And I really take that when I was a child, it was like that. It was the best place to be a kid. It was like the free, naive, fun, out in the country, playing in the fields with the cows, whatever we did. It was just so freeing. I didn't really know some of the realities of the world, and then when we moved, I mean, I think reality kind of, even at 10, kind of hit you that life was a little different. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Especially going through a divorce. I'm sorry to hear about that. Going through, your parents going through that. Um, but and one of the reasons I asked that question is because it just really helps. I've noticed when I talk to people, and this is something that we do in the military. Everybody in the military does. We say, "Where are you from?" Because it helps you understand who the person is,
Yes.
and it's really cool. So in view of what you just said, how did that upbringing kind of influence you, to become the Allison that you are today, school wise? And how did you pick ophthalmology? How did all that happen in your
all
early
of
life?
all of that, that transference. I was always, as a kid, and I still am. I'm super curious. I love to learn. I was one of those kids who, type A. I loved doing well at school. I wanted to achieve. I had an older sister. I always wanted to be better than she was. I wanted to try to
Nice.
do better than she did. Um, uh, in her past at my age, and I've always been driven. I've always been driven, and
Okay.
I don't understand why. I don't know where that comes from, but I've always been driven to do more, to do better, to be my best self. So knowing that, I was like your stereotypical like great student, the one that the teachers probably really enjoyed at that time.
Yeah,
Yet, yeah,
I was
I
the
look,
opposite,
it's
but
like,
go
hey, I
ahead.
raised my hand, I didn't talk when I wasn't supposed to, I followed the rules. I was a
Yeah.
pretty good rule follower, which is funny because sometimes in life now I'm like, ooh, I'm not so good at following the rules.
Yeah.
But
It's good not to follow them all the
I
time,
don't follow them all the time, but in school I was very good at that. So it's like, and then, through my parents' divorce and watching my mom pretty much raise my sister and I as a single parent, seeing her struggle financially, knowing what that meant on us. We went from this kind of idyllic childhood to living in a very, very small duplex in a new town, knowing that we were some of the, we always had love, we had enough, but there were definitely, monetarily things we didn't have and we were never going to have. And so I grew up with that. It's like, if I want something, I'm going to have to work to get it. I'm going to have to work hard to make it happen. And I've always felt like with that hard work, you can do what you want. You can make it happen. I was always great at math, science, all that kind of stuff. Loved music as well, but the math sciences kind of naturally led me into the biology, chemistry, medical field. And what drove me was being able to do something that I felt like, truthfully, if I ever had to be on my own, like my mom was in that situation, and with kids or not, I always wanted to be able to take care of myself, and I never wanted to have to rely on somebody else. And I knew I could do it. I knew I could make that happen. And so that really drove me to find a profession that I felt would fit with skill set, what I wanted out of life, and what I wanted to achieve and accomplish. But still, that drives me to be that independent person. So.
So then how did ophthalmology? You could have been a medical doctor, you could have specialized in 100 different things. You
I,
could
I
have
yeah.
you could have been a NASA astronaut, I mean, all those options. Why
Yeah,
ophthalmology?
I don't. There's so many things in my world. I truly feel I listen a lot to my intuition. I listen a lot to my gut. Although you read things like, oh, you shouldn't do that because you're biased against this and you're biased against that. But I feel that listening to that gut of mine has guided me well, whether I've known or really understood why it was kind of pushing me that way or not. So ophthalmology, medical school in general, I wanted to go to medical school, but what I didn't want was the kind of confines of what I thought traditional medicine was. Traditional medicine, as far as I knew, was working a lot of hours, didn't get to go to sleep, didn't get to see your family, didn't get to have a whole lot of fun. I mean, that didn't sound really appealing to me.
Although you would be driving a Porsche or some fancy car,
I wanted to go into medicine. And so that kind of hindered me a little bit. Do I really want this for my life? Once I made the decision, yes, then it was, yes, well, what do I want to do with it? And visiting with somebody who had decided to go into subspecialty, another female, and she's like, hey, Allison, here's a couple subspecialties where I think you can have what you're looking for. You can be who you want to be, live the life that you want to on your terms, still, be in the profession you want, yet it doesn't require so many of those things that you don't necessarily that don't fit you in your life. And I knew me well enough to know that. And so she actually mentioned ophthalmology, and honestly, the moment she mentioned it, I really never looked back. I knew nothing about ophthalmology. We don't learn about ophthalmology in medical school, so we didn't have a lot of exposure, but it drove me. And if you're going to go into ophthalmology, you needed to do well, you needed to study hard, you needed to do well in your tests. So it was like you go, and there's several subspecialties where I feel like believe me, now medical students these days, they're all like brilliant. I don't know how I would have gotten to medical school like 20 years ago if I had to go up against the kids that are there today. But at that time, you still had to be the best of the best in order to get into these really high subspecialty areas. And so that drove me again. And thank the Lord, once I actually got into the ophthalmologist's office and finally saw a cataract and saw the retina for the first time. We talk about beauty and art. Like, retina is one of the most beautiful things you could look at, and it grabs you. And you're like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. So I never looked back. Luckily, I would say God guided me. I got into ophthalmology, and here I am.
Where'd you go to school for ophthalmology?
So to be in ophthalmology, you have to go to medical school first. So medical school for 4 years, Ophthalmology University of Minnesota. I was all rearing to try to get out of the Midwest for a little bit of time, and I ended up about 4 hours away in Minneapolis, which was awesome. I love Minneapolis, and I still do to this day.
Okay.
Great training. And then I did a fellowship in kind of the eye. It's not that big, right? And then we subspecialize in these teeny little tiny areas of the eye. So I really work in like the first 4 millimeters of the eye. I don't work in that much. So I did a fellowship in that. So working in cornea, we did transplants. I learned refractive surgery. We did a lot of cataracts, did a lot of those kind of fine things.
Do you do the PRK or the LASIK?
Yes, I absolutely do. So I know that you had PRK, and you were one of the early, people to have it. And PRK has been around for several decades, and refractive surgery and the whole concept of it continues to just take off from what we had thought of with traditional refractive surgery. So it's still a super fun area, and to be able to do a procedure like PRK or LASIK, or even removing a cataract and putting in a lens to help people gain their vision back, it is empowering, and it is an endorphin boost. Probably like you in a plane, right? It's an endorphin boost. So
that's cool. So it literally energizes you to. So does that endorphin hit you during the procedure, or when the patient comes back and says, my God, Dr. Tendler, I can see better than I ever have? When does it hit you?
That's a really good question. And I had a medical student in with me today, actually, for the half a day I was in clinic. And due to the weather, I said, so we saw a post-op. And I went in with him, and we saw this post-op. He's like, wow, that's got to be really, gratifying. I'm like, it is. It's a huge endorphin boost to see somebody do so well. And I'm like, interestingly, I don't think about it having to do anything with me. I'm so excited. Like, yes, I helped them achieve that, but they, number one, allowed me to do it. Number two, I got to do this for them, and I just want them to be happy. I want them to be living their best life. I want them to look at me and like say, I am so happy that I did this because I'm hoping it changes their world. And that's what's really exciting.
So totally exciting. Having had that procedure done back in 2001, just incredibly exciting. Talking about leadership and professionalism and all these things, do you ever like have a patient scheduled for the day and you wake up in the morning and you go, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm going to have to reschedule this surgery?
Another good question. I don't think I've ever thought that. From like, hey, I don't feel it today, because my job is to be prepared for that day.
For sure. Yeah.
My job is to make that decision before that day. And I
Sure.
tell patients all the time as well, and clients, it's like sometimes they'll come in for their surgery day. And I'm like, oh, we're going to start your journey. And I stop myself and say, no, wait a minute. We're not just starting your journey. We've already started your journey.
For
It's
sure.
just one of the culminations of it today that we actually can manifest in this. We're doing this procedure day, but we've been working hard for weeks ahead of time trying to get ready for this day with all the preparation, exams, data, scheduling, all the things that we need to do. This
Exactly.
is a combination of that peak or that glacier that's happening.
That's exactly right. In my business, I have the point of entry for my business. I fly Virginia Beach indoor skydiving, is when our customer service advisor either answers the phone or you walk through the front door. In any case, your experience with us begins right then and there. And that's
on your website.
That's right.
Starts there, or looking
That's
at your Instagram accounts.
Yeah, that's right. And we're setting the tone for their experience. So I tell my customer service team, that journey begins with you. You're going to set the tone. And then the lifelong memory, the lasting experience is the flight experience. When people go in and fly with family members or they just, that dream of flight, which is what we do here. That's a lasting memory, but everybody on the team plays such a critical role. And I reinforce that all the time. And I'm sure you do too.
We talk about that a lot too, that we need to get people to call, we need to get people to connect and come in. And if they don't have a good experience there, they're not feeling the confidence level at that time, how are they going to feel the whole way through? I might be the fifth person they've talked to within my business. Everything else has had to flow before that. When I finally get to visit with a patient, hopefully we've set the stage well, and now we're just making the decision on a plan.
Yeah.
And then that's just the plan. Then we still have to go through all these other steps in order to actually have the final procedure happen. And then sometimes we're still not done after that. So I do tell you, it is a journey. And I want to go on it with you, and I'm willing to go on it with you. But you have to view it that way, that we're a team in this together.
No, that is really cool. You know what? We're going to go a little longer today than I normally do, because there's so many cool things to discuss here. And one of them is, when I had my PRK back in 2001, I remember the eye surgeon saying to me, just in that discussion, in that getting to know each other, I asked him if he had the procedure, and he said that he wasn't, he was a candidate for it, but he wasn't going to do it. He is so dedicated to his patients, even though there's a 0.001% chance or whatever the number is that something could go wrong. He said he wasn't going to put himself through the procedure because he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to deliver the top quality product, to his patients. So do you have any thoughts or experience there?
I tend to think a little bit differently. So in my world, whether I'm doing, of course I can't do all the surgical things I do to myself, but but on the aesthetic
You're in the mirror going, hey.
I just can't do my own surgery. It's just not possible. But on the aesthetic side, my feeling there is anything that I can do that to be done to myself, I want to experience whatever I can that my patients or my clients might experience, because that gives me that better understanding, that better empathy, and might help me set up processes better to make a better experience for that person or my team. So, but on the frame of refractive surgery, there are certain things we don't need, and there are certain things we like, hey, medically, I just don't need that. I have had refractive surgery. I decided not to do laser, which is what most people think of when they think of refractive surgery. LASIK is always top consumer mindset. And there's PRK. I actually had implantable contact lenses. They're called ICLs.
Wow.
Put in my eyes. So I even did something a little
It's like
bit more.
military stuff there. ICL. That's what, you know.
So I did something that was actually a little bit more risky, but I felt best for me as a patient overall. I'm a purist when it comes to some things, so if I don't have to alter a body in a certain way to get a result, maybe there's a different way to do it. And so that's my feeling on that. And I think that I do think a lot of refractive surgeons don't think like your surgeon did. I feel like if they are candidates, why not enjoy the freedom and the functionality of your life?
Yeah. Oh, and you just freedom and functionality. It is real. I am telling you, folks at home, this was the second best decision I've ever made. First one was terminating my first marriage. Story for another day. But
Side to side, yeah.
but this for me, it is a game changer, a life changer, just incredibly unbelievable. Okay, so you go to University of Minnesota, you go back to South Dakota to establish your practice. You're doing ophthalmology, and tell me if I'm going off track here. And then at some point, you appear in 2008 in these Restasis commercials on TV. And I still remember, and I remember seeing you in those commercials and going, what is this all about? How did that happen?
Well, it was truly the first, nowadays you see all of these direct-to-consumer commercials, like all the commercials on TV are about drugs, right?
Oh, yeah.
It truly was one of the first direct-to-consumer commercials in a different way to talk about the world of, the pharmacy world out there. But what they wanted and what they were looking for was they did a talent call with their reps, their drug reps that are all across the country, of course.
Ah, okay.
And this was the first drug of its kind for that indication for dry eye ocular surface disease. And ocular surface disease, we had nothing to treat it with. It's like poo-pooed. It's like can't do anything. And it impacts people's lives like you would not believe. So I do have a big, if you want to get me on a box, I'll go speak about dry eye and ocular surface disease.
Sure.
But at the same time, so they were looking for somebody who, of course, was passionate about it, who dealt with it with their patients, and also, interestingly, who had it themselves. So again, using that self-awareness, it's like, hey, I have this myself, which I do. I've been treating myself for it since probably 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And they were particularly looking for a female, and they really wanted, an MD or an ophthalmologist. So those were their parameters that they were looking for.
Okay.
Send
blue
out
eyes? Did they specify blue eyes?
they're actually green. So.
Oh, was it? Sorry, were they green then?
Yeah, they're all green.
Okay.
So that's an interesting sidebar too. I've got very intriguing eyes, but at least that's what I'm told. So, so one my rep, who I'd known since residency, is like, "Hey, Allison, like you should try this. You should. Can I put your name in?" And I'm like, sure. I guess so.
Cool.
And they had a 2-man film crew who came to my location because usually if you're going to do a commercial show, you have to travel wherever they are at their time frames, all those kind of things, which is why I haven't probably done another one since. But they came, they taped, and I
came to your office. They did all that.
Office in
that's cool.
South Dakota.
Yeah.
And videotaped, and I knew enough that I'd done some commercial reading in the past, and I knew enough that, okay, I better try to have this sucker at least memorized and have read through this and have prepared as much as I can to try to do the best I can. And yeah, many months later, she calls me back. She's like, you read for that commercial a while back, and she's like, you got it.
Wow.
She's like, they picked you. I'm like, so it was, and I had no idea what that meant. I really, I had no clue, but that's the story.
Okay. All right. Well, we're entrepreneurs here, so hopefully a nice check showed up in the mail after they ran it.
Well, I did, after a couple years, I was part of, I was part of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and so I still am to this day, because of the time that ran and the number of takes. So that's kind of a fun little anecdote. So.
That is cool. Yeah. So there's a 2008. I was looking at this on YouTube. I remember this from, whatever I was doing in my life back in 2008. I remember those commercials, and, I had the PRK, my wife had LASIK. And she had dry eye. So, we were customers, if you will,
Yeah.
just because of that. But, so there's like what, 3 or 4 or 5 editions or versions of that commercial?
Yeah, we filmed 3 different times. So they did 3 different variations
Yeah.
for Restasis. So, and those were usually 2 years apart. So,
Okay. Okay, cool.
yeah.
And then Screen Actors Guild. So like Tom Cruise, did he call you up and say, "Hey, I'm making this Top Gun 2, what's your
He
schedule look like?"
didn't. He didn't. I was really disappointed by
Yeah.
that. Could have been a good stand-in for like Kelly McGillis or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it just didn't happen. Here's what I think. I think he just doesn't know,
Yeah.
right? He must just have missed out. So.
Yeah, and that could lead to another patient, so now that's cool. So I mean, what it sounds like you just having fun in your adult life, and we haven't even talked about all the travel you're doing.
Yeah.
And but I know that you like to travel. We talked about that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
You've been to India a few times, and so you've been to India twice. Why the second time? You've been there the first time, been there, done that, saw it.
Well, been there, saw it. So let me go back to my, I think an interesting thing might be my why of why I went to India the first time. My mom had passed away. Right before my sophomore year of college. So I was 19, and I felt like, and it's still, again, this guides me as well in how I see and view the world. Of you got to do some things, like you want to
Yeah.
do them, make a plan, make it happen, and just do it. Don't wait 10 years, whatever. Don't wait, because you never know that you might not get to. So do it. And I'd never been out of the country before. Rarely been out of South Dakota. Going to Lincoln, Nebraska was a big thing.
Way to go.
When we were
What?
kids, or Minneapolis. And so I happened to see, again, it's kind of intuition. I happened to see something on my university kind of cork board, and I looked at all these places across the world that I could go to for a student learning program. And I was going to graduate early from college, and I'm like, I want to go to India. I want to go to the most unique place that I could possibly think of. There was no email, the internet was barely there at that time. So I chose India to go do that. Spent 3 months there, doing a student learning program, mostly in Calcutta, so based in northern.
So medical studies still?
So I knew wanted to go to medical school. I'd applied and wasn't sure, again, you just don't know if you're going to get in. But this was definitely based around medical, medical needs of children over in the Calcutta region. And so it was education, but it was also us providing service and doing volunteer work over there.
Okay.
So that was kind of the nidus for me to go over and spend time. So we, as a college student with, I paid my way through college. I did all that. Like you're traveling, you're doing things, and you're saving your little rupees over there.
Yeah, your rupees.
And so I promised, so that I knew that at that moment, though, I'd come back someday. I wanted to come back, but I was going to come back as a different place, a different person, quote unquote, and at a different place in my life, where I could see that world a little differently and maybe experience it on a little different level than at the college level.
Okay, all right. That's very.
So the next
very
time I brought my
thoughtful.
husband over, and yeah, we did a whole bunch of different things, but
Okay.
I did not show him Calcutta. Something in me just didn't want to go back there, and they call it Calcutta now. I believe they don't call it Calcutta anymore. But anyway.
Tomato.
Super interesting.
In Australia, it's a tomato, by the way. I've been to Australia.
That's awesome. So they really don't say it wrong. There are two ways to say it. There's still only one way to say wash, though. It's not wash. It is
Yeah,
wash. So
totally agree.
I can't do that. So anyway, India started my travel bug. India is where it all began, and I compare still a lot of the places I've been. Some other places for volunteer work too have been like, well, it's not as bad as India. It was a struggle, that first step of how we were immersed. It was great, but it was tough.
Yeah, right. Did you develop a knack for Indian food, or a taste, I should say, for Indian food?
Oh, amen. I mean, so
Yeah,
I came back and
yeah,
I was just, you couldn't find that in South Dakota.
yeah,
Having something that wasn't like breaded and fried was rare, to come
yeah,
back and
yeah,
try to find something. So
yeah,
I love Indian food. I still do to this day. And now it's like, no, it needs to be like really authentic Indian
yeah,
food.
yeah. No, I hear you. So my wife and I, we love going to, there's a couple really good Indian restaurants here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And, so we love going to them. I'll tell you what, though, when I lived in Washington State, we went to an Indian restaurant, and they asked, this is like my first or second, maybe third time at an Indian restaurant in the US. And they said, how spicy would you like it? And I said, oh, as hot as you can make it. That's not the right thing to say. So
Well, you never know. It's just like Mexican restaurants. You say you want something spicy and it comes back like mild.
bland. Yeah.
And so each Indian restaurant is different, and each time I order at the same Indian restaurant, the spice level is different depending upon who's making it that day.
Yeah, and whatever his or her mood is. So, so that's cool. No, so travel's a big thing. Let's jump back real quick. You mentioned you put yourself through school. So did you have jobs in high school and college? How did you do that?
Well, I always had a job. Number one, I needed to make money. There were certain things, if I never wanted to ask my mom for more than what was just the necessities. So if
Yeah.
I wanted anything else,
Oh, there's our little girl.
there she is. So if I wanted anything else, I knew that was going to be on me.
Okay.
And so I just felt bad asking her.
Sure. What
I
were some of
felt
the jobs you did?
Hey, I worked at a clothing store so I always worked from like March till the beginning of school, so like March to September. I worked at a clothing store. I was a waitress, or a server for a summer. I would be a much better server today than I was
Yeah.
then by far. Number one, I can open a bottle of wine. Number two, you just can manage people a little bit better and have
Yeah.
that confidence level. I'd be a much
Yeah.
better server. So maybe that's gonna be another career. I'd do that. Um,
For fun.
for fun. I worked at a little bakery in a grocery store
Okay.
for a
So
summer.
you know what a kringle is then, right?
I do know what a kringle is, but we really don't, these little stores here don't have those, but I do know what a kringle is.
Yeah, it's a Midwestern thing. It's like I grew up Kenosha, Wisconsin, Racine, Wisconsin, and
Especially is it Scandinavian, Norwegian?
it is
Yeah.
that's the origin. But somebody
If
was
I would have been at a true like little hometown bakery, amen, they would have had something like a
Yeah.
kringle.
right. Yeah, where I grew up, we were having kringle and coffee at somebody's house every weekend. It was pretty cool. Okay, so let's kind of move into entrepreneurship a little bit. But
Awesome.
before we do that, though, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Allison is a good capitalist, just like I am, and just like all of you out there. So we will be right back. And we are back. I'm talking to Dr. Allison Tendler, board certified ophthalmologist, business owner, entrepreneur. And let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey so far. So at some point you decided to leave I don't know, if a medical group that you were with and step
Correct.
out on your own. I mean, how did that
Correct.
come to be?
That was there's been a lot of hard things in life, and hard little, I'll say, chapters in life, and that was definitely a hard one. There's nothing easy about leaving a partner or a partnership, no matter what that means, whether that's personal or professional. And no matter how hard it or how much it may need to happen, it's still a hard road to decide, to make that decision to do, and then to undergo and finally kind of traverse that and get to the other side. Having done both of those too, but just Well, first of all, I've worked in so many different, just being in Sioux Falls, I've worked for a health system. So I've worked as an employee for a large health system with the same partner that I had been with. We went out on our own, grew that group. And so that was, learning experience for entrepreneurship. But even then, I didn't I had a really hard concept of what that meant, what might be required of me. And you had people to do a lot of things for you. So
Hmm.
in the hospital level, people did all this stuff. You saw what you made, you saw what you got to take home, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Although you knew that, hey, I want to hire this person, or we need to hire two more staff people, that ultimately came out of your overhead. So that concept and the semblance of cost of goods within your clinic walls made sense. Um, Going into private practice, there was still a lot of things that were done for you, and my job was to see patients. My job was to see patients and do this and move forward clinically, yet still learning along the way. We learned a lot about marketing. You learned a lot more about, we started running our own surgery center. So you start to, by osmosis, you really start to pick up a lot. I don't I don't feel like I had it like, ooh, I always wanted to own my own business, or I always thought I'd be an entrepreneur, and especially never thought I'd be a solo business owner. Now
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now.
Solopreneur.
Yeah, a solopreneur.
Yeah.
Yet it's been rewarding in, still working on the financial rewards, but I'm going to say it's been rewarding and challenging and a growth. It's just been such a
Sure.
growth spurt for me that I'm like, oh, maybe I'm better at this than I thought I would be. I'm like, I'm gonna suck at this. It's gonna be no good. Like, I don't know that I should do this. Maybe I should just call it quits now. Because I was scared. I was scared to do that.
How
Um,
long ago did you take that giant step?
it'll be 4 years this summer, so about
Okay.
2.5
Okay.
years ago. I
So,
did. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead and
well,
ask your
I was going to say, so, Malcolm Gladwell and mastery, right? 5 years or 10,000 hours to master whatever the skill is. So you're 4 years into it, right? So you're still, I mean, I
Still
having
trying to
gone through.
master.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm in the same situation with kind of where I'm at. I did a 26-year military career. Who knows if I ever mastered that? And then I'm now 12 years in the private sector, but I fly Virginia Beach. We were steady state, doing great by our 5th year, no problem. Everybody, I have 40 people on the team. Everybody knew what they were doing. Then I transitioned into writing a book and doing coaching and doing leadership development and having these these podcasts. I'm like almost maybe 2.5 years into the podcast. So there's a mentorship and a process we go through to learn. So you're 4 years into it. You pretty much told us how it's going. So where do you want to go? Because you've got med spa and
So,
some other things. So
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Yeah. So what are your business goals there?
So, two components of my business. So, all under one umbrella per se, but I've got two different classes of business that I have. I've got my true medical eye side. So that deals still with a lot of insurance. It just a different kind of marketing, patient population base that you're going after, as well as
Oh
working
yeah, right.
working with primary care optometrists that are taking care of a lot of those patients as well. So it's a little different beast. And then we've got, if I could just be like all of one thing or all elective, or you didn't have to deal with all these magnitude of things, yay, that'd be great. But I also might get bored. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, and then I've got my skin and laser side, so truly elective, where we get to kind of really let the creative juices flow. I tell people that what we get to do is, I've got a whole bunch of different tools and paints and paintbrushes in my office, and it's my job, even though I'm using science to dictate what I want to do for you and with you as a client or a patient, whether it's your vision or your skin. It's like I'm trying to choose the right paint and paintbrush to make that happen for you, as you are the canvas. And so,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, you are like the canvas that I get to work to help. We talk about, either we're going to help create something, we're going to maintain something, um, or we're going to restore something. So it's all the
Ah,
artwork too. We're restoring, we're maintaining, or we've got to create it in the first
that's
place.
that's awesome. We love this. We have this affinity with things in groups of three, but I love that. Create, maintain, or restore.
Hmm.
That's
So
I love that.
so from how I look at both sides, there may be very different. It's like you're doing eye surgery and you're playing, having fun creating these awesome things for people's skin. But they really do mesh in how I see my why and my world together. Truly, yes, literally and figuratively, you can see the world better. But when I work on the eyes, it changes, it rocks their world, and they start to change how they feel about themselves. They feel empowered. And
You
it's
take care of these things under people's eyes, like ones I have?
You bet. You bet. Come on over.
Oh, that's it.
Don't come this winter, but wait till the summer. Or maybe it's better for you to come in the winter. And then on the skin side, it's the same thing. It's all about that empowerment. It's truly, people want to walk out. It's like, yeah, I want my lines to go away. But what happens when you do that, or you make their skin glow? It's like they feel more empowered. They're happier being on Zoom. They're happier being in front of their audience. They're happier when they're running that meeting or being in front of their team because they're more confident about who they are. And I just had a little part in that, but it's really cool. So,
well, you know what? That's a great, man. Again, there's so many things that are you're pinging me on here. From the leadership perspective, right? Because I mean, would we call this cosmetic surgery or cosmetics, generically? Is that a correct way to?
You could, overall term, it is, cosmetics. And part of my surgical side, I do a lot of elective surgery as well. So it is cosmetic surgery. Some of on the eye side, though, it's like, is it cosmetic or is it functional?
Yeah, right.
Functional
Well,
meaning,
I would say
to have it, and is insurance going to cover it, or is it like I want to have it because I want it for me?
For sure, yeah, and both of those I think are valid, reasonable.
They are.
Yeah. It's the human being being a human being.
And I tell people too, it's like it's okay to want to do something for yourself. I'm going to make you. I want you to be your best self. I'm not going to make you someone you're not. But you just want you to. It's okay to say yes.
So a couple things there. One is, does insurance pay for? They probably don't pay for the cosmetic stuff, but will insurance pay for corrective eye procedures like
No.
PRK and LASIK?
No, they won't. Coming from the military world, that's a little different because I think everybody, that is active duty
now. I was one of the test patients, but now.
So for our listeners too, everybody who's active duty actually has the opportunity to have refractive surgery for no cost through the military. So they get to do a lot of things that we don't necessarily get to do, and do a lot more of certain things because we can't on the private sector necessarily make that happen for some patients. But it is truly, it is not covered by insurance, which, it's like you've got glasses, you've got contact lenses, you've got those kind of things that some of those eye care insurances will take care of. But that is still looked at as cosmetic. And, it's still looked at like, you have the option to do this and to see well, but you want to do this. And it's like, that's okay. Live it, do it, and don't look back.
Yeah. So. I'll tell you what though, and this is my life's experience. This is my experience since I had the procedure. I'm more confident as a leader. I'm more confident as a team player, and I'm more efficient because I don't have to say, hang on, where's my glasses? Let me clean my glasses. Let me take my glasses off for this. Let me find my glasses. My glasses broke. My contacts are bugging me. I got to go get contact solution. I slept with them in their 3-day contacts. I've had them in for 3 months, which is
they talk a little bit about, or there's been this push lately, like, hey, LASIK has all these, potential bad things about it and all these risks and da-da-da. It's like, okay, but on the scope of things, number one, I don't feel that is true if you're having a good surgery done properly and not and taking care of the patient before and with ocular surface.
Sure, and the data is there. Data is there.
That is there. Yeah. Two, like you take your situation, I slept in my contacts for 3 months. Those people are so much risk from a health standpoint for infections and ulcers, and they're setting themselves up for like this nastiness.
Yeah.
Like, let's not have that happen. Let's get that refractive surgery for you. Move on.
Yeah. So in the long run, it could be in the long run, it's a cost savings. It just is. And why wouldn't insurance pay for that? You're reducing health risk. You're reducing overall long-term eye care. You would think that insurance companies would see that.
There's, you could say that on other realms too for things from a true medical standpoint of, let's say, hearing aids. Like, let's go there. Like, we don't have any other option to hear sometimes in those kind of things. So it's like, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, yeah,
We don't
yeah.
have an option. So,
Yeah. We're going to jump into business. Well, okay, let me continue this thread. As the leader of an organization, I can tell you, I'm a better leader because my vision is I'm 2015 and I have been since the surgery. Although crazy thing happened this past week, I'll tell you about in a second.
I can't wait to hear that.
But because my vision is so good, I present better because I can see my audience. I get that visual feedback. I can see clearly, and I have much greater confidence, and I'm much more efficient. And I think from a leadership perspective, do you have business leaders, CEOs? Who's your typical patient?
I would say there is no typical patient. If you really want to, if I can be honest with you, the my typical patient is anybody who's finally ready to say, I want to live life differently. I want to see life differently because I want to function in my life differently.
Yeah,
You're making a choice, almost like you're going to make a choice to, like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to make this a priority for myself because I value what it's going to bring to me.
yeah, yeah.
So if there's value in it for somebody, like, once they do it, like, they probably don't even think about cost again because, like, wow.
Exactly.
Wow. I
I
would
did
do
it.
this day over and day over again to have this freedom and functionality. I had a patient in recently who I do a lot for reading vision as well. So, like, I love that reading vision population because that's a struggle bus too. And we all 100% of us will have reading vision issues. So it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
it will happen.
Yours
Um,
truly.
me, it's just getting worse day by day. And she's like, I feel so young. I feel free. I feel like, she's like, I couldn't even lay on the couch with my glasses and watch TV because they'd alter and they'd bump. I mean, the basic things we do every
Exactly.
day. And I tell people, like, what else in your life can you wake up and use every single moment of your waking hours than your vision? Like, you get to use this gift you've given yourself every minute of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. So mine was 2001. This is 23. So that's what, 21 years, 22 years ago. And every day, it's literally like you said, every single day I wake up and I say, man, I'm so glad I did that every day. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, just from a marketing perspective, CEOs, leaders, see clearly, lead with greater clarity. Hey, I'm on your marketing team now.
You are.
Lead
You are.
lead your organization with greater clarity. I'm all about mental clarity and high energy. That's kind of when I coach and when I speak. Those are really my main points in leadership. But so let me tell you real quick. I did a hyperbaric oxygen treatment recently. Are you familiar with that at all?
I am. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So because I'm a veteran and some of these less than conventional, although I would say hyperbaric oxygen has become conventional, but
Yeah.
these things are available. So
Can I ask what you did it for?
yeah, exactly. So primarily TBI, which in my case I have the mildest form, and I say that just because I have teammates who have severe TBI and terrible issues. But in my case, mild TBI, which leads to sleep disturbances primarily. Just about everybody who has TBI, one of the first symptoms to present is sleep disturbances. And then those can be minor to moderate to severe, right?
And those lead to all these other things.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. So, but then also my knee out of nowhere just decided to explode. So I had this terrible knee thing going on. And then I had this back surgery a bunch of years ago. And so I've got this lower back issue. So TBI primarily, but I was keeping my fingers crossed for some back relief and some knee relief. So my knee, like I went from like using a cane to 95% resolution in 4 days. 4 treatments. Each treatment is you pressurize the chamber to 33 feet, equivalent of seawater, and you put this hood on and you breathe 100% oxygen for an hour. And so that pain in my knee was relieved in 4 days. I was sleeping great in 4 days. I don't ever remember in my whole life, except maybe when I was, teenager, sleeping so good. It's that sleep where you wake up and you go, oh, I'm not getting up, or I don't want to get up. I'm just, I'm really into the sleep. So those were the improvements. But here's the weird thing. My 2015 far vision, it deteriorated almost to the point to where I need glasses to drive. My reading vision, which I always have to wear, I've got to wear reading glasses. I don't need these anymore.
Okay.
Is that odd?
Well, I think that, number one, I think it is odd. I can say that, that's odd that your correction would have shifted, like that.
Now they say it's temporary.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to know, why is it temporary? Was it from like your cornea? Is it from your lens? What was it that made it temporary? Because I know what happened to your correction. I grasp all that. Because now you don't need your glasses, so you became a little more myopic, et cetera, et cetera. But the interesting is, like, did it impact your lens? How did it do that? Is it going to come? Like, that's really intriguing.
Yeah. So keep
me posted, because inquiring minds want to know on that.
For sure. I'll let you know. What they say is, like, 6 weeks after treatment ends, and I had my last treatment yesterday, 40 treatments in total. They say 6 weeks later, your vision reverts to whatever it was.
That's fascinating. Well, the hyperbaric, I've done a lot of reading on, like, aging. How do we slow our aging process or improve our health systems totally? So that's one of those things they talk about.
Yeah.
However, they say access for most of us normal people. Like we don't have the access to it. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome that you got to experience that.
Yeah. I'm blessed. I'm lucky as a veteran. I have all these things available to me. Okay, so back to the business side of things. You are 4 years into running your own. What do you call the eye practice? An ophthalmology practice, or?
Oh yeah, a surgical eye practice.
Okay, a surgical eye practice.
Ophthalmology is what it is, but for kind of layman's, I would just say surgical eye. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Surgeries on the eye.
And then how long have you been doing the med spa is not the right word.
What's the aesthetic side?
Yeah.
So that I've actually been doing for about 10 years. So I brought that over. I started that when I was in my prior partnership, and then I was able to bring that with me.
Okay.
So I was able to continue that as had been. But it's been really, they're both very interesting. I didn't honestly think that the eye side would be as hard as me, having been a member of this community for 16, 17 years now, performing eye surgeries. How interesting that segment of the business would be for me. I thought that would be the easier side. It's actually been a little bit, it's been intriguing and challenging, and I love solving puzzles, so I consider it a puzzle to be solved.
Oh yeah. Business is a puzzle.
Always. So if you look at life as a puzzle, every problem, challenge, situation, it's like, okay, it's a puzzle. How do I pull in my resources? How do I find the right tools and the right people in order to help me try to get through and work through this puzzle?
Yeah. That's cool. When one of the other veteran programs I went to, they through art, there was treatment through art. They had us paint these masks, these faces, and boy, some of the things that people, that they put on these things. But on mine, on the outside, I put the planet basically, and on the inside, I put a puzzle, and the puzzle was like partially complete. So
never fully completes. And then the moment you complete it, someone just hands you another puzzle for some reason.
Yeah.
For some reason, just another puzzle magically appears. So
yeah, exactly.
You always know there's going to be that.
How many employees do you have right now?
Currently we have 14, because I'm all under one roof. Even though I class them out separately, I'm able to use some combo employees, like phones and front desk managers. So we're able to combo those a little. I work in both sides as well. So and then I do feel there is some crossover in patients, clients between my two segments. So we try to
Okay.
make sure that there's that. I've got an in-office OR suite, so we actually do our surgeries right in
Oh,
our
that's cool.
in a sterile environment, everything. So it's a very boutique, small.
Yeah.
I'd say one-on-one. We're not going for the gerbil wheel type of practice. I'm
Yeah.
going for those connections. I'm going for that relationship. I want to feel connected to my patients, and I want them to feel that way with me too.
Okay. So then no other surgeons, you're just you.
At this time, no. And you asked about future plans. I don't, there's a certain level that I feel like I want to get to first before that would be even needed or necessary. And then I question, okay, but do you want that anyway? Do you,
Yeah.
where do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do, we meet, this didn't start off immediately, but one of the best things, and I'm sure you have this too, finally hiring like a business coach, some
Yeah.
people to help us okay, I don't know much about business or how to run it. Thank God I had hired somebody on like 2 weeks right before COVID started.
Okay.
So during that, I was able to get some help, guidance, advice through that kind of I say difficult time, but I think it made me a better business owner and a better leader because
Yeah.
it actually showed me a lot of flaws and a lot of weak points that we had and gave me a
Okay.
little bit of time to set some of those. So
That's
I look at it as kind of a win
yeah.
for who I was as a leader, and what my business was doing. And in aviation or whether it's the Navy, like you're 1 degree off. All of a sudden, you're going to end up with this big divide. And I
That's
felt
right.
like my business had just moved like a couple degrees different than where I wanted it to be. So it allowed me to kind of just take and try to move the ship back in the line it needed to be.
Yeah, that's so cool. So in two of my other podcast episodes, both of them happen to be with Navy SEALs, retired Navy SEALs. But that's exactly what they talk about. If the team is 1 or 2 degrees off, well, what they said was if the team is 1 or 2 degrees off as a leader, they can handle that. But when the team gets, but if that goes on for too long, then it has that effect. Anyway, just really, really good discussions overall.
Yeah, so on a business level as well as an employee level, that's been one of the also a learning lesson of
Yeah.
who is really needed on that team, who's supposed to be on your team, and if those people are bringing the ship off that degree level, it's like how do you correct them or how do you need to let them go?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the book I've got on display behind me, Elevate Your Leadership, which I believe you read.
I did.
Yeah.
It's a great read.
Oh, thank you so much. But those are the things that I address, and I address them, not based on some Harvard graduate program, classroom based. I address them based on my life's experiences, basically. And you're going through the same thing right now, so I like that a lot. Well, Allison, what haven't I asked you, or what would you like to share with our guests that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I guess that's a interesting and somewhat of a you're trying to turn the questions on me, aren't you? Sneaky, very, very sneaky. Um, I think one of my philosophies, we've talked a little bit about, the reason behind art and how I think it's interesting to hear like a physician or someone in the business world look at things as art. And look at that creativity factor that my clients and my patients are also like they are art, they are pieces of art, they're not always works of art, but they are works of art, and I want them to respect themselves as well as trying to be the best piece of art
Sure.
that they have been. The creativity side, I think we as business leaders and entrepreneurs, there's a creativity there that I don't think I ever knew that I had. And so I would encourage whether people are just starting that journey, find that creative flair that makes you like passionate. Like marketing is one of those. I'm like, this is actually really a creative, this is a creative thing. I enjoy it. I enjoy the brainstorming. I enjoy trying to come up with little things, although I'm sure it drives the marketing people nuts. But
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. So finding within you those things that even you didn't know that you had, that you possess, that you like, and then that makes you more curious about this, and you want to read this book, and you want to do that, and you want to go to this meeting, and just that constant growth and curiosity that I feel like makes for a great leader. I think during COVID as well, one other thing I'd point out on that side was because I was such a new leader within my business, I didn't know a lot of things, and like to be able to be asked questions and to have that confidence to say like I am not sure of what the answer is, or
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that humbleness to say like I don't know, and but I want to know, and I want to know for you, so let's work to figure that out. Also transferring it to your employees once in a while to say, that's a really good question. I'm going to let you go work on that.
Yeah, for sure. For
Come
sure.
back to me. And so those have been some growth points as a, just simple points as a leader and an
Yeah.
entrepreneur that I feel have kind of come about in me in these last
sure.
few years, that I feel much more confident in saying that, doing that.
For sure. For sure. And the other part, and again, this is my friend Ryan Crowley, retired Navy SEAL. In his podcast, when we talked about this, he said, you don't always get it right. Leaders don't. Is that wine you're drinking, by the way? Let me just,
Well, we started before 5. It's actually water.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, these guys can't see me, but I love my water out of a wine glass. So in my own office, water tastes better out of a wine glass. So if you don't believe me, do it. It's like, I'm not a big water drinker, but you make me like, I drink water out of a wine glass and I just love it.
That's cool.
This tastes really good. Have you ever done those glass tasting things?
Glass?
Like wine glass tasting?
I have not. I mean, I've done wine tasting.
So you have different wine glasses and you taste the wine out of these different glasses.
I've never done that.
Immediately.
So the same wine out of a different glass.
Oh, amen. So like if you're on the airplane and they pour you wine in a little plastic cup, like just don't drink it. It's not worth it unless you just drink the alcohol. If they give you one of those big old thick water glasses to pour, it's going to taste terrible. So anyway, getting back to the water really does taste different out of different vessels too.
I'm going to try that tonight. Yeah.
And you feel kind of special to be holding a wine glass and drinking water,
Yeah. And you could be lying to us. It could be wine in there. No, I'm just kidding. So I see the bubbles. So
there were bubbles.
Prosecco.
Yes, Prosecco. I guess it could be Prosecco, but
yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, Allison, super fun discussion. And I would like to let everybody at home know, if you enjoy this discussion that we're having, please visit my YouTube channel, Elevate Your Leadership on YouTube. And you're going to find several other discussions. You're going to find little 2-minute shorts and all these other little nuggets of gold, many of which I'm going to pull out of our discussion and post to YouTube as well. So, and then how can people get a hold of you?
Me personally?
Yeah. Oh, personally, professionally, however you want people to contact you.
Well, here's my cell phone. No, I'm just kidding. My email, allison.tendler@artvisionsf.com. So ArtVision Sioux Falls or artvisionsf.com.
Okay.
Easy to find on the website as well. I've got Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those types of things. So LinkedIn is Allison R. Tendler, Instagram, Allison R. Tendler MD. So not too difficult to find, or one of my businesses will pop up as well. And so we'd love to hear from anybody. So
good.
And myself personally. And if you reach out, maybe you'll get my cell phone number.
Okay. All right. So you're out there in the social media world like most of us are. Yeah. Do you get patients who travel great distances?
Once in a while. I do have some patients, here in Sioux Falls, a lot of people winter, and I'll actually have patients who will come back for certain post-ops to come back this way, or they've got friends or family located where they are further south, and they'll come back this way. They're like, hey, I want them to see you. I've had a few people from the regional area, your Colorados, your Minnesotas, Wisconsins.
Yeah.
I've got some fun clients who actually come in from Michigan, so that's kind of fun. So yeah.
Pure Michigan.
And honestly, Sioux, they come here, either they've got some family or friends here, or Sioux Falls is a fun place to spend, a few days as well.
Yeah.
A lot of art scene going on. There's some great dining places. So there's enough to do. We also do things digitally, so we'll do some virtual consults to try to manage things so that patients can, like, we get most of it done. We need to do a certain few things here, of course. And then some things can actually be managed post-op in their own hometowns,
Okay.
where they're
Okay.
located too. So let's say
Okay.
you're going to come to me, someday when you can't stand your reading vision, and yeah, we can arrange all of that. It's always, always doable.
Okay. All right. So visit Sioux Falls, South Dakota, while you're receiving some type of procedure from Dr. Allison Tendler. I think that sounds like a fun trip.
Amen.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the Elevate Your Leadership
Oh,
podcast,
it's been
Allison.
so fun. You are a joy. It's just been a blast to spend some time with you.